Hello! My name is Davis and I enjoy playing video games. Welcome to episode 2 of the Stardew Valley Linus run. If you haven't watched the first episode or just need a recap, here's a rundown of the premise. I thought it would be interesting to see if Linus could have completed the community center before the player got to Pelican Town. So I started a new file, immediately disposed of my tools and money, and got to work. In our first month, I was able to complete 2 bundles, buy an iridium rod, fully upgrade my backpack, find an axe in the woods, and fish up a sword. Let's see if summer is going to be as productive. Right off the bat, day 1 did not get off to a great start. I completely fumbled a football in front of Alex, and in my embarrassment, I immediately walked away and stared at the horizon like nothing had happened. Then, when trying to have a conversation with Maru, I sat down beside her twice before actually speaking to her. My only success story for the day was delivering a pike that Pierre had requested. Determined to make up for such a dismal display, on day 2, I began to gather all the summer forage. This proved to be difficult, as there was a certain wild man who appeared to be guarding the spiceberry I was hoping to collect. Luckily, being nimble and agile, I was able to grab it from right under his nose. Having gathered all of the forage necessary, I made my way to the community center to donate it, only to find that an unattended spiceberry was sitting by the bus stop. Once the summer forage bundle had been completed, the boiler room and a bulletin board opened up for donations. Other highlights of the day include planting the last of my forest and waiting for Pierre to Squidward walk down his hallway. On day 3, an earthquake had opened up a path to the spa north of town. While checking out the new area, I stopped by to look into what it would cost me to have Robin build a fish pond, and allow me to explain why. You see, I was getting tired of having to wait for bombs to appear in the traveling cart, so I was brainstorming alternative ways to get explosives. Now, interestingly, my original plan to craft bombs was put on hold because it turns out that you don't learn the recipe for cherry bombs until you get to mining level 1. Obviously, I was unable to get to mining level 1 without a pickaxe. But luckily, you can gain mining experience by breaking rocks with bombs. I assume you can see my dilemma here, hence the waiting for bombs in the traveling cart. Conveniently, you can actually buy bombs from the dwarf at the entrance of the mine. However, he is blocked by a rock that has to be broken with an upgraded pickaxe, which I will obviously not be able to get. You can blow up said rock with explosives, but that leaves us in the same predicament as before. Fortunately, there is another merchant who sells bombs. The desert trader has bombs available, but he doesn't take normal currency. You have to purchase the bombs with quartz. Now, normally this is not that outrageous of a price, but quartz are normally found in, you guessed it, the mine. And as you know, in this particular run, this is not an option available to me. So, while there is a very small chance that I can find quartz in a garbage can on my daily trash check, since quartz is one of the few items that is never sold at the traveling cart, I did find out that if you have a fish pond with ghost fish, they can produce quartz for you. Now, some of the less seasoned Stardew Valley players may not be aware that the ghost fish is actually caught in bodies of water on certain levels of the mine. But I'm not at an impasse this time, because ghost fish can be bought at the traveling cart. So I was pleased to find that building a fish pond was feasible just in case a ghost fish appears in the cart before a bomb does. Hopefully that clears things up for you. After stealing another spiceberry from the wild men in the woods, I fished for the rest of the day, getting to level 8 fishing. On day 4, I decided to go buy the iron I needed to make a crab pot. I only needed 1 more shellfish for the community center to unlock the last room, the vault. If I wanted to trade quartz for a bomb, I would need to complete the vault to unlock the bus to the desert. After I spent the rest of the morning smelting the ore into bars, I crafted a new crab pot and dropped it into the ocean. Day 5 was a cart day, so after emptying the trash from my crab pot and relocating it to the forest lake, I checked what was being sold, but there wasn't a bomb or a ghost fish. Instead, I ran to Clint's to purchase copper and smelted that into bars to make a tree tapper. This is how I intend to get the tree products for the exotic foraging bundle, the chef's bundle, and the enchanter's bundle. I also noticed while foraging that the sprite for grapes, while being a reasonable illustration of a whole bunch that anyone might draw, is actually labeled as a singular grape. So that's a thing. Anyway, I got to level 6 foraging. First thing the next day, I ran down to check the crab pot, which had caught a snail, meaning I've completed the crab pot bundle. for which I was rewarded with more crab pots. Okay. But now the vault has opened, and with the power of tea saplings, I had a plan to knock out the first 3 bundles of the vault. Unfortunately, my celebration was short-lived when this happened while checking the garbage cans. Nobody look at me. Oh, no, Haley. I just said don't look at me. No, you're the worst person to have seen this. You're so judgmental. Even though that was pretty embarrassing, I pushed onward and sold 30 more tea saplings and donated the proceeds to the community center, leaving just 1 bundle to complete the vault. On day 7, I checked the cart first thing, but found nothing. So I went to say good morning to the wizard. I should say that I've been speaking to the wizard every day to slowly build our friendship to increase the chances he sends me a gift in the mail. And I don't know if this just happens to me, but when I speak to him, I always tend to run in, trigger the conversation, and immediately leave. And he always does this crazy double take looking animation as if he has no idea who he just talked to. I find it so funny and I laugh every time. I spent the majority of day 8 fishing to save up for the last vault bundle. And before you say anything, yes, I did forget that I could make tea saplings with other seasonal wild seeds, of which I had 30, so whoops. But hey, I still needed to catch some fish for the community center, so it wasn't a total waste of time. Although, I would have liked to have not been fishing because I got bullied by the legendary crimson fish all day. Ah ha ha! Come on! On day 9, I accepted a request from the wizard to deliver an iron bar, which was beneficial in both the wallet and friendship department. Then, after fishing for the rest of the day, while checking garbage cans on the way home, I found some cookies outside of George and Evelyn's house. Similarly to the grape, I noticed that the item label for cookies was singular, while the Sprite had multiple. And if I'm being totally honest, this one feels like an oversight. You could easily have a single cookie Sprite. I'm just saying. Not being one to back down from a challenge, but rather being one that just needed a bit of a break, I returned on day 10 to the beach to attempt to redeem myself by catching the crimson fish, which I failed to do. It's not that I couldn't have caught it, it's just I couldn't pass up the opportunity to see if a passing train might drop much needed resources, which ended up being a very good idea because I got, 10 wood? So, which would you rather have? Day 11 was the luau. I put in a super cucumber. There's not much else to say about that day. Day 12 was a cart day. When I checked for bombs or a ghost fish, there weren't any. But there was a duck egg, which I would need, so I bought that. Besides that, I found a bubble spot in the mountain lake that lasted a really long time, so I fished for most of the day there. And on my way home, I picked up my first oak resin from a tree at the bus stop before going to bed and getting to level 9 fishing. Day 13 was the first rainy day of summer, so I set out for the beach to catch a red snapper, which was the last fish I needed for the ocean fish bundle. In sadder news, it was around this time that I discovered that my plan to use ghost fish as a quartz source had a glaring flaw because the fish don't produce quartz until there are 3 fish in the pond. Now that's not too big of an issue because the fish reproduce on their own as long as there's room in the pond. However, the initial capacity of the pond is 1 fish. To increase the capacity to 3 in order to have the fish produce quartz, the fish ask for something in return. And do you know what they ask for? Yeah, quartz. Which I can't get because the fish won't produce it. So that plan is a bust, meaning I'm basically just waiting for quartz to appear in the trash or bombs to appear in the cart. Speaking of the cart, the next day was Sunday, which meant I needed to go check for bombs. And only bombs. Unfortunately, there weren't any, but I did go ahead and buy a red mushroom which was available. Then, while trying to catch 2 tuna for a request from Willie, my nemesis returned. It was a hard fight, but this time, I would prevail. I must have been feeling pretty good about myself because then I said the worst thing I could have said in that moment. It'll be really embarrassing if I catch a legendary fish and not the tunas that I need. Yeah, I only ended up catching one tuna. I think I caught every other fish possible, but a second tuna never showed up. The next day, unfortunately, I had to spend a good amount of time fishing for the tuna I missed the day before. I did eventually get it, but not without a fair amount of bullying from some pufferfish. I also happened to fish up my first artifact for the museum, which was exciting. And not just because it was accompanied by a diamond, which I was not about to donate to Gunther. I'm not giving you the diamond, it's just the doll. Thank you, okay. Since I was so close to the 25,000 G I needed for the last vault bundle, I sold a whole pile of duplicate fish that I'd been saving up, so I'd finally be able to unlock the desert tomorrow. The next morning, with my riches in hand, I gathered all of my donation items and headed off to the community center. I spent the 25,000 G to finish up the vault, which not only unlocked the desert so that I could go trade for bombs, but also rewarded me with a crystallarium, which is important because it duplicates gems, like quartz, and more quartz equals more bombs. So, by donating the rest of my haul, I was able to complete the ocean fish bundle. And then, to celebrate, I played some video games with Abigail. After that, I thought it'd be appropriate to bring a fresh raw fish into a doctor's office to give to Maru. She seemed to appreciate it. And while I was at it, I busted in on Alex and Harvey during a medical exam, which is most assuredly a HIPAA violation of some kind, but no one seemed to call me out on that. As I slept, the Junimos repaired the bus so it would be ready for my first trip to the desert tomorrow. When checking my mail in the morning, I received 35 stone from George, which normally I'd be kinda ho-hum about, but in this run, it was a blessing. When I went to thank George for his generosity, I stumbled in on yet another medical examination. This time, Harvey had something to say about it. Must have been one too many. After I was done violating the privacy of yet another member of the Molnar family, I made my way to the desert where I collected a coconut, cactus fruit, and sandfish for the community center. I also made a troubling discovery. It's 5 quartz? Oh my god. Yeah, a single bomb cost 5 quartz. I mean, sure, I can still duplicate them in the crystallarium, but it's gonna take 5 times as long now. With this knowledge, I devised a genius new tactic to collect quartz. And that would be geodes. If you bring geodes to Clint, he can break them open and you can sometimes find useful resources in them. So now, the plan was to bring any geodes I fished up to Clint. However, by the time I got my geodes together, Clint was closed, so I'd have to wait until tomorrow. On day 18, presumably as an apology for having such terrible business hours, Clint sent me an iron bar, which is excellent since I needed one for the community center. Once he had opened, I went to Clint's and opened a total of 9 geodes, none of which contained quartz. But that was probably just bad luck, right? I also picked up a request from Alex, who I believe was making a devastating mistake while making a dessert. But maybe that's just me. Perhaps I'm not cultured enough to appreciate a fish-based dessert, but hey, I'm not gonna eat it, so I was more than happy to oblige. And in the best possible viewing angle, I might add. With nothing of use at the cart on day 19, I continued to brainstorm ways to get quartz, and it occurred to me that Emily seemed like someone who might send you quartz as a gift. So I stopped by her house and inadvertently entered one of her dreams. I still don't know what to make of that. Just FYI, Emily doesn't give the player quartz at any time. I spent the rest of the day cutting down trees on the farm, which caused me to get to level 7 foraging. On day 20, I accepted a quest to find Leah a grape because it just might be the easiest 240 G I could ever make. And then I immediately forgot about it and went right back to clearing the farm. Day 21 was Sunday, so I went to check the cart for bombs, but only came back with a potato for the community center. Luckily, I remembered I had agreed to get a grape for Leah, so I brought that to her, swapping my tapper to a maple tree on the way. For the last week of summer, I got into a bit of a cycle of killing time, waiting for the last 2 cart days of the month. My time was mostly spent checking the trash cans, fishing at bubble spots, foraging, and chopping down trees. The only interesting things that happened this week are that I found Jas jumping rope in the rain, Elliot and Leah did the wizard's double take, and I got to level 10 fishing, and for the first time ever, I chose the pirate profession so I can get more resources. On day 26, Clint sent a second iron bar in the mail, With that, I was able to make a recycling machine so I could finally start utilizing all the trash that I had been collecting. Seeing as how there was nothing but summer spangles and tulips in the cart, I ran off to Clint's to try and get some quartz from some geodes, which still seemed like a flawless plan to expedite my access to the mines. Unfortunately, I didn't get any this time. I can't imagine why. I'm sure I'll have better luck next time. I was, however, pleasantly surprised when I returned to the farm to find that my very first soggy newspaper had been recycled into some cloth. It was about this point that, upon further research, I discovered that quartz could in fact not be found in geodes. So yeah, who knew? But I figure it's still worth it to have Clint crack them open to get any other resources I may need, at least until I sort out my mining capabilities. With the month coming to an end, I snuck past the wild man one last time to pick up a grape because I needed to collect all the forage I could before the season was over. On day 28, I ran down to the cart first thing, but I didn't find the bombs I was hoping for. Instead, I did purchase a large white egg and some wheat for the community center, since it was becoming apparent that it might be a while before I could actually do any farming on this farm. While I waited for the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies to start, I killed time with some foraging and fishing, and questioning the rationality of my exclusion from the beach until the festival began. And then, at 10 o'clock, I made my way to the beach to celebrate the end of summer. As we watch the Moonlight Jellies migrate south, let's take a moment to reflect on the past 28 days and evaluate the progress I've made this summer. While I'm a bit disappointed I've still not made any progress in the mines, it's not really that big of a deal since there's still lots of work to be done up here on the surface. In fact, while I was waiting on certain items, I was able to complete quite a few bundles this summer, and I even completed the entire vault and unlocked the desert, which I think is a huge amount of progress actually. And I think it comes as a surprise to no one that I fully leveled up my fishing skill. This summer has been a whirlwind of ideas, both successful and not, but I think we can all appreciate where we've landed in the end and can look forward to meeting our goals in the next season. If you're interested in seeing how the fall goes, be sure to tune into the next episode. And until then, thanks for watching.